Welcome back to Chapter 10, Spirituality in a Secular Profession. There's just a few other points that I wanted to add and maybe reiterate. One of the reasons that I chose this textbook here for this introductory course to social work, one of them was that it actually did have a chapter on spirituality in a secular profession. Most of the introductory textbooks, and I get maybe one or two sent to me almost every week from publishers around the country, do not have even a single chapter in their textbook about spirituality. That's how much it's not been part of the discussion and not been part of the education. Unless you go to a faith-based university, you're likely not ever to even have the topic brought up. In a secular university or college, you're not going to have a course on spirituality and social work or religion and social work practice. And most times you're not even going to have even a single chapter in a book. But this was one of a number of reasons I chose to go to this textbook here. It's something that needs to become a part of the discussion. Now, there are many social workers who still feel very strongly that while religion and spirituality may be personally important, they don't have any place within social work practice. That social work practice needs to be empirically based, evidence-based, more of a science type approach, a social science, but more of a science type approach to working with people. It needs to be kind of like a separation between church and state. But there are those, as I've mentioned, who over the last few years have begun to say, we need to have this conversation. We need to find, the proper place and the proper balance to have this as part of what we do look at. I mean, when you're doing an assessment with a person and you're asking questions about their family, about them, about their culture, about their world, with someone who religion is a significant role in their life, that they bring up, that they pray to God for wisdom and guidance, or that they go to church on a regular basis, or to synagogue, or to the mosque, and they talk about the spiritual leader, in their life from their church or their synagogue or their mosque, and the importance that person plays. How can it be that we would totally cut that information out? That, well, that's not important. We'll talk about your issues and your problems, but we're not going to allow that to be part of the conversation. And so, it needs to be brought back in. We need to find, it's a struggle, yeah, we need to find out how to properly include it. And because it is something that to quite a number of people, is important, and it needs to be part of the discussion. We need to have, the schools of social work need to have classes on religion and on spirituality. We already have it in our code of ethics that one of the things we're not to do as social workers is to impose our beliefs about anything upon the clients that we work with. Our values, and from wherever we do get our values. But to help the client clarify their values, because at the end of the day, the decisions that they make need to be based upon their belief system and their values. We help point out the potential consequences of different decisions, get them to look at that, get them the resources and the information. But at the end of the day, they need to determine their own course of action. And for some, religion will be a part of one of those, of what's in the mix. It may be appropriate in some situations. A person suffering under guilt and shame, certainly we can work with them. We can use the knowledge that we have in terms of therapy. But in some situations, in a deeply religious or spiritual person, it may be appropriate that one of the referrals we would make is, we'll have you talk to your minister or your pastor or your rabbi or the imam. and that might be the appropriate referral to have in the situation for what's best for the client. So I'm not by any means saying that social workers need to become a religious person in and of themselves. You're not going to be absolving people from sin, but you need to understand how they see the concept of sin, and if that's a burden that they're struggling under. How can we get them the help that will move them forward in their, move them forward in their lives. So this just needs to become a part of the curriculum, even in secular as colleges and universities, as well as it already is in some of the faith-based ones. And as you read through this chapter, you'll see that there are some social workers who've actually published some books on this. So if you have further interest, if you're going into the profession of social work, you could check those out. There's articles being written now on this issue, debating about it. And at social work conferences, now it's becoming more common that there might be a workshop around some aspect of this. As the profession, goes through the process of seeing how is it that we can incorporate this in an appropriate way. And I want to draw your attention in closing here to the vignette that's at the end of this chapter. It's called Christian's Spiritual Challenge. Now, they happen to have given the person in this vignette the name Christian. I don't know if they just thought that was cute or clever or whatever. But anyway, it's a good vignette. And I want to encourage you to read it because it gives you kind of a scenario in which some of these things arise here. And there's not going to be a specific question, what did Christian do in this, situation? But as with a lot of these vignettes and scenarios that are in many of these different chapters, it can give you a flavor of what it is like to practice social work around, these different issues. So it can help enrich and it can help inform you, and maybe even would be helpful in the some of the questions on the quizzes, although there won't be specific questions related to those scenarios. But the principles are the same, and it might be helpful as well as interesting, some of them, for you to read some of them. All right, this is the end of the second part of the video on the chapter on spirituality in the secular profession. And it's just kind of an introductory thing, just kind of getting it back out into the conversation. All right, thank you.